We are talking Brewers baseball on the Allbaugh Show today. So excited to welcome back to the program one of our guests and welcome him first time for the other guest. The film coming up September 13th at Marcus Theaters all across the state of Wisconsin and elsewhere. As Letterman used to say, in select cities. And by God, I hope one of your cities have been selected. Coming up on September 13th, it is a new film called Just a Bit Outside, the story of the 1982 World Series Brewers run. And joining us to talk all about it is Sean Hanish. He is the director-producer. Sean grew up in the Milwaukee suburb of Brookfield, Wisconsin. He's been a Brewer fan since birth and grew up idolizing Yount, Molitor, Gorman Thomas, and the rest. Attended 60 games in that 1982 season, including all 6 playoff or home games for the playoffs as well. He is a Emmy-nominated filmmaker as well, has all kinds of great films. And Kahl, producer of this great film. Kelly is the former president of CBS Entertainment, a lifelong Brewer fan growing up in Burlington, Wisconsin. Beautiful Burlington. I've been there several times and never knew he'd be end up being a friend of his longtime idol, Gorman Thomas. Kahl, of course, 21 years helped CBS build a durable, successful scheduling framework, making it the number one network for viewers 14 of the last 15 seasons. He's brought us great shows such as Survivor and my personal favorite, Blue Bloods. If only it was still around for next season. But that's not why you called. Kahl and also Sean Hanish, welcome to the program, guys. Thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks so much, Todd.
Great to be here, Todd.
It's so great, and to have 2 Wisconsin guys here, and this may be important later on this half hour. Sean, you grew up in Brookfield, Kelly in Burlington. Sean, talk about what it was like just growing up as a kid in Southeast Wisconsin, and how did you become a Brewer fan, and how did you get into filmmaking?
Well, I mean, actually, I have my parents to thank for my love of all sports. I come from a very a sports fan heavy family. I was lucky enough to my parents had tickets to the Brewers since I think they got season tickets starting in about 1974, and I was a lucky kid. I got to see all these guys grow up, and all the way up until I was 14. And there's really nothing like a summer day in at the park when you're 14 years old with your family, going in to see this incredible group of players, an incredible group of people that continue to win, continue to like. There was something, I know I'm getting right to the movie here, but I have such a fondness for that time in my life growing up, because it's something that brought together my family, that brought together the community so beautifully, and you really felt like there's a real a community there that forms. I think Wisconsin sports fans and their teams have a special bond. Whether it's the Packers, the Bucks, the Brewers, the Badgers. There's something I don't know. I've always felt stronger about those ties than I think some people that grow up in Los Angeles feel about their ties to their sports teams.
Right. I couldn't agree more. We've taken this show on the road all across Wisconsin this spring and summer. And you know what people don't want to talk to me a lot about? Politics. And when we talk about things like the Packers or the Badgers or the Brewers, they love it. They're like, Todd, talk more about that because it brings us together. So I couldn't agree with you more. How did you end up with a kid from Brookfield end up in the filmmaking business?
Well, my dad was in advertising. He had an advertising agency in Milwaukee. So I was able to go on sets, and since I was a little kid, I was actually in a few commercials when I was a child, some of his spots. So I grew up around the community of creatives and being on a set, and I was able to really learn all the different positions, at a very low cost, when I was a teenager or in college. And it really was when I was at Madison studying under an incredible film studies department and a really good production school. And that's really where I fell in love with film. And then I was, fortunate enough to get into USC graduate film school, and then moved out here. And that was kind of the ticket or the sign that told me, hey, you could do this for a living.
Kelly Kahl, you're another Badger alum. In fact, his handle is Cali Badger. We welcome back to the program. We love you having you on here again, Kelly. Talk to folks that maybe didn't hear it when you were on before. Again, your love of Brewers, how you kind of got to be a Brewer fan growing up in beautiful Burlington, Wisconsin, and then how you got into ended up being one of the most powerful people in Hollywood, being the president of CBS Entertainment.
Well, I think it's a little bit kind of what Sean said. As a kid growing up in Wisconsin, it's just kind of osmosis. You're checking and people forget now, I think, how different it was then. Checking the paper the next day if the team played on the West Coast. How'd they do? Oh, the West Coast scores aren't even in the Journal or the Sentinel today. So there's just like great mystery. So doing that, and I think it just in the pennant chase that year, just getting caught up on it, and every game you're living and dying with the team. And again, it's if you're not watching, and I would watch on, I think it was good old Channel 18. Then you're again checking the paper in the morning to get any information how the team did. So I think, like I said, it was just. And where I do think Wisconsin is unique, and I think what our film does is, we've had some people say, "What's left to tell about this story?" Well, I think as we learned making the film, there was just in the context of the '80s and the economy in Milwaukee and unemployment and this town that was really down on its luck. This team and this. Diverse, interesting, kind of crazy group of players bonded together and lifted this whole city up, really to the brink of winning it all. Didn't quite get there, but then the city showed their love for the team and paid them back. And I think that's kind of what we got into. And I would say the other thing we found along the way is it still sits with these players to this day. When we started, I think this was just we were going to put a bunch of drinking stories together on film and have a good time with it, and there are a lot of those. But in talking to them, boy, we would do these interviews, and you would get to the end, and you would get to Game 7, and I think we took these guys back to kind of a place they don't go too often, and it sticks with them to this day. There's regret there, and they all handle it in different ways. But boy, it was I think Robin Yount said it best. Greatest ride of his life up to Game 7, and Game 7 worst day of his life.
Wow, amazing. We're talking to Sean Hanish and Kelly Kahl of the new film coming out in September called Just a Bit Outside, the story of the 1982 World Series Brewers. Sean, how did you guys come? Whose idea was it first to do this? Yours or Kelly's, or like how did this come to happen?
Well, I'll let Kelly take that because really it started with Kelly and Gorman on a golf course.
All right. Kelly, it so often happens, right? In politics and entertainment, in life, it starts on a golf course. Go ahead.
Gorman of the '82 team, I love them all, but Gorman was my guy. He was my hero. I modeled my batting stance after him. I wore my stirrups like he did. I took big cuts at the ball and struck out a lot like he did, and occasionally we get lucky and hit one a long ways. So when I found, and this was maybe 10 years ago, when I found I would have a chance to play golf with him, I kind of jumped at it. And I was, of course, very nervous to hang out with him and to meet him. But then we got out there together. And honestly, within, by the end of the first hole, he's telling stories, and he is kind of regaling all the guys we're playing with of tales from the team, including a lot from '82. And basically, on each hole, he had a new story for us. And, eventually, and this went on a couple of years, and I heard kind of so much that I talked to Sean, and I said, I think there's something here. Ultimately, it was not what we ended up with, but it was the kernel was this kind of crazy bunch of guys who kind of went out pretty much every night on the road, wherever they were, and in Milwaukee. But then would go out and hit home runs and win games the next day. it was kind of neat. And so that was kind of the kernel of it. And Sean and I spoke, and then we ended up doing some kind of phone interviews with some of the players to make sure that we, had something. And the more we talked to them, the more we knew we had something. And like I said, it probably the end and the final product is probably a little different than what we thought when we started. But it's, absolutely satisfying, and what an incredible ride. There's no, I think a lot of stories you've got to embellish the storyline along the way, but this story of the season needs absolutely no embellishment. It's a roller coaster ride, and it's all true.
Sean, talk about this, what Kelly just said, pick up on that, where you thought where you started from, and how the film evolved as a director, what you got. How did that happen, and where did it end up?
Well, I think it's really fascinating because documentary is so different than making a narrative film. In the narrative film, you start with the script. The script is everything. In a documentary, you really we had an outline, right? And the season lays out beautifully structurally. High expectations, team falls flat on their face, have to replace the manager. The manager is a local legend. And I mean, if we all remember Harvey Keene, he had a peg leg. And, I mean, it's incredible. And he and his wife lived above the bar that her family owned. I mean, you could not script this better for a CBS show. And then this team goes on this ride, this rocket ship all summer. And then it's like, okay, we're going to win this thing. Oops. But then Raleigh gets hurt. You're like, and then we get down to Baltimore. And so you just have to win one game. And we lose the first 3 out of 4. And then pull it out there. Lose the first 2 in Anaheim. Come home to win all 3. Take it to the 7th game of the World Series. It's like we knew there was a structure there. What we didn't know was the depth of emotion that these players still carried with them. And that really dictated and dictates how the film turned out. It was our first real proof of concept here was our first interview, which happened to be Robin Yount. And Robin invited us into his home for this interview, which was very generous. He didn't know us. And we sat down, and 2 hours and 45 minutes later, his wife looked over at me, Michelle, and she said, "I've never heard him say the words he said to you today in that way."
Wow.
And it was there's something, Todd, we hit something. And it was, maybe it's timing, but it was like all of these players still hold so much emotion about that season, so much emotion about the relationships they formed with each other. They're all still really good friends. They're all really good guys. And they have such a love of the city of Milwaukee, the fans of the Brewers, the fans of the state of Wisconsin, because we showed up for them. And Kelly said this earlier. What really came out, Todd, after a few interviews, we said, "Oh, this is a love story. This is a story of a town that was down on its luck. A lot of plant closings, a recession in the early 80s. It was a town that needed something to lift them up. They needed a team. And then when the team lost the 7th game of the World Series at their lowest moment, the town showed up and threw them an enormous parade, bigger than the parade that the World Series champion Cardinals had. And so it turned out to be a love story, and it's beautiful."
After a few interviews, we joked that this was kind of like Field of Dreams, where our mission was to ease their pain. That's kind of what it felt like, and hopefully the players are going to see this in a couple weeks, and we'll see if we did that or not.
Absolutely amazing. We're talking with Kelly Kahl and Sean Hanish of the new film, just a bit outside the 82 Brewers World Series run. We're going to come back, give you a chance to be at the premiere and also a Brewers game. A trivia next, more interviews. It's the Allbaugh Show for a Thursday on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Stop your feet, team sitting in the stands.
That's fantastic. Where do you find that, Mr. Zombers?
Brewer Fever, the theme song for the Brewers in 1980.
Love it. A little Brewers trivia for you. It is now 9 before the hour of 2 o'clock. Coming up, Maggie Dawn Show after CBS News or ABC News, depending upon which station you are listening to across Civic Media in Wisconsin. We are talking to Kelly Kahl, producer, and also Sean Hanish, director and producer of the great new film coming out in September called Just a Bit Outside, the 82 Brewers World Series run. Guys, this is a little production on the fly. Mr. Zombers, how long is that clip? Do we have, what's the time on that? Do we know?
A minute and a half.
Minute and a half. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play you this Brewers clip, and while it's playing, we're going to give you a chance to win 4 tickets to the Brewers game coming up on September 6th at 5:10 in the afternoon, and then a week later on Friday, September 13th, 4 tickets to the world premiere at a Marcus Theater near you. The trivia question to win this great package: at the beginning of the interview, we told you the hometowns of both of our guests, Kelly Kahl and Sean Hanish. There are 2 correct answers. The first person to give us one of the correct answers, the hometown of our guests, wins this package. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Make it easy. 855-75-CIVIC. Give us one of the hometowns of our guest, Sean Hanish or Kelly Kahl. Will take the first right answer. While we're waiting, Mr. Zommers, if we can, here is the clip that we have from the Just a Bit Outside, the 82 Brewers World Series team.
What you hear in the background are 54,968 fans. Nobody has left.
The stadium was so loud. As players, you can hear things. Even when it's loud, you still hear the ball hit the bat. And you kind of get a sense of how the ball was hit by the sound. But I never remember not being able to hear the ball hit the bat, except this time.
Glad ready. The 1-2 pitch.
I didn't hear the sound of the bat that I was so used to hearing. And it was kind of eerie. It was odd. I questioned on how hard he hit it.
It was a one-hopper, a good thing, because he smoked the ball.
It came right up to me, a perfect one-hop. I go to throw it to first base, and I let it go.
I'm like, oh my God, this is it, this is it. All I could think about was just catching the ball and jumping.
And I'm watching this ball go across the diamond to Coop. And I swear to you, they've turned the dial back, and it's in slow motion. I'm not sure it's ever going to get there.
The ball looked like it was just in slow motion, coming across, coming across, coming across. Hurry, get here.
It was the craziest thing.
Ball line to Yount. It's short. He throws. It's over.
Wow. I mean, I want to go see this right now. That is a great clip from Just a Bit Outside, the story of the 82 World Series Brewers. We have Kelly Kahl and Sean Hanish, producers and director. This is fantastic.
Todd, I've seen that clip at least 50 times now, and I'm still goosebumpy here listening to that. It's
seriously
crazy.
I mean, if the camera can pick it up, I mean, literally, oh my God, guys. Thank you both for doing this on behalf of all the Brewers fans in the state of Wisconsin and across the country. This is fantastic. I want to get to more of the film, but first of all, the question to win 4 tickets to the Brewers game at AmFam Field on September 6th and 4 tickets to the premiere of this great film coming out September 13th. They are guests, Sean Hanish, Kelly Kahl, both from Wisconsin. Give us one of their hometowns. Let's go to Hans here listening on WMDX in Verona. Hans, give us one of the 2 hometowns of our guests.
Brookfield.
You are correct. Nicely done. The hometown of Sean Hanish. Are you able to go to both the game on September 6th and the premiere on the 13th?
Absolutely.
That's great. You have a quick when's the last time you were at a Brewers game, Hans?
Probably about 3 weeks ago.
Nice. So you're a Brewers fan.
Oh, absolutely. The girls are big fans.
Are you old enough to remember the 82 World Series?
No, I was 3 years old then, but I talked a lot to my dad, and yeah, I've watched a lot about it, and I grew up watching Molitor and Yount, so I kind of feel like I watched it, but yeah, not really.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for calling. Don't go anywhere. Hold on the phone. Mr. Zommers will take your information. You were going to that Brewers game on the 6th and the world premiere of Just a Bit Outside on September 13th.
Sean, can we sweeten the pot and send that man a poster from the movie?
100%.
All right.
There you go. Our guests are fantastic. Hans, you're getting a poster for the movie as well. That's fantastic. All right, hang on, Hans.
Great.
Thank you, Hans. Hang on. Zommers will be with you in a second. I have no words. This is just the coolest thing ever, you guys. And we only got about a couple minutes left. Tell me something that you want Wisconsinites to know about this film.
I would like them to know that one of the goals that we set out to do was to help people go. I wanted people to be able to go back in time and relive the emotions of that entire journey. And you know what? When I saw that scene and all that leads up to winning the 5th game of the American League Championship, I felt the same joy watching that as I did being in the stands. And I was like, we got it. We got it. We can, like Hans when he was 3. He's going to go see this movie and now feel like he was there. That's the thing.
Kelly, about a minute and a half left.
I'm not sure I can top that. I just, like I said, some people have said, well, what's left to tell about this story? But I am very confident, if you go see this, you're going to learn things you absolutely did not know. There's a subtext to this. There's an emotion that the players show. There's the context of the city and the time. There's just a lot underneath this beyond just the story of the season, and they got to Game 7. I would also add, I've shown this to folks who know the story and folks who don't know the story, and they both go along for the ride and enjoy it, whether you know all the details or know no details.
The film comes out September 13th. You're not going to want to miss it. It's called Just a Bit Outside, the story of the 82 Brewers World Series. You can follow them on all the socials as well. Kelly, Kahl, Sean, Hanish, thank you both so very much. We hope to see you in Milwaukee for the premiere for this. We're going to keep pushing it, keep talking about it. It's an important story to tell. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Todd.
Thanks, Todd. This was great.
Appreciate you guys.